Okay, we have a gift and a curse with the social media, whereas we can get information from you out, but there's a lot of information out here that's not real. And the thing about it with our babies now, if they see it, they believe it. Okay. So we have to sift through those things to make sure that they understand the real and they're going to get the right information. So that's one of the things as a school administrator, when we're using the technology, we have to, I get my leaders of the schools and my lead teachers and everything like that to make sure that we do our homework before we put this out to our, children of color, because we're the ones struggling around here.
Welcome to the Let Bob podcast. It's your boy Ant. And as always, we're excited to have a new guest on the podcast today, Mr. Jabbar Smith. He resides in Memphis, but somehow works out of Arkansas. So we want to hear his story and hear what he's doing in the community and just what he's doing as an impact, just showing what you can do when you put your mind to it as a Black man in America. What's going on, Jabbar? How you doing today?
Man, nothing much, man. How are you today?
I'm awesome, man. Always good on our end. No complaints.
Right. It's summer break, so I mean, it's a good thing for me right now. But we're getting prepared to accept these babies back in, so we can make sure they can read and write and do a little math before they get out here in the real world and become the competition for everyone else.
Nah, that's good. I'm excited to talk to you too, because man, like with social media and the education space, specifically in high school, elementary, and middle school, for educators, man, I assume it has to be a very difficult task nowadays, man, with all the different information coming in through all the different channels of social media. Can you kind of speak to kind of some of the things you deal with that?
Man, with the social media piece it has taken place of the bully. Okay, we have a gift and a curse with the social media, whereas we can get information from you out, but there's a lot of information out here that's not real. And the thing about it with our babies now, if they see it, they believe it. Okay, so we have to sift through those things to make sure that they understand the real and they're going to get the right information. So that's one of the things as a school administrator, when we're using the technology, we have to, I get my leaders of the schools and my lead teachers and everything like that to make sure that we do our homework before we put this out to our, children of color, because we're the ones struggling around here.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. That's one thing, as someone who's in the space and has been in the space for many years now, I've always told parents and teachers that the power of the internet is unlike something we've ever seen before.
Right.
And the power is interesting because it could be used in both ways. To your point, it can be used in a very attractive manner to create value, getting the right information, or it can be used in a attractive way to destroy reputations, destroy people's self-esteem, a lot of things that go along with bullying. Just magnify it, right? Because now instead of 10 people laughing at you, you could have 10 million people laughing at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's one of the things, and that's where we're suffering in the school. When our focus right now is just getting these kids to be able to read and write and know some numbers, basic numbers, so we can balance the checkbook. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more soon. But I mean, if you look at the African American, the Black community, we look at the Black community, man, it says 84% of our Black students are not proficient in math. 85 are not proficient in reading. So we got 15 kids out here, 15 and 16 kids out here that can read and write in every school. Now, this is an average, but that's rough. And then you have the internet where, I mean, you don't have to read anything. I can type in here now. I can say, how do I build a house? I can type that, and if I can follow instructions, I can build a house. But that's not helping me with my comprehension skills, because we're going to have a video here. And so everything is shifting from, reading and comprehension in the video world, as we're talking about right now, to, okay, let me make sure you can push this button. And we got to prohibit all our children from coming and becoming those button pushers, man. I mean, that's a big thing, man. And I'm really struggling with that because, I mean, you know, I'm in elementary school, you know, 3 through 5. And so I have the babies. And this is the foundation. And we got to build a foundation for them to make sure they're successful, because without a solid foundation, we know what's going to happen. That building's going to fall. We've had a lot of buildings fall lately.
No, I agree. So with those type of discrepancy in the number, right? To your point, you know, you got 15 kids who can possibly read, you know, at their grade level, and then you have these other 85 who can't.
Right.
I think what we see is technology kind of as a handicap in some ways, right? Because if you can't read, you can still get by, because the devices now can, with all this AI stuff, you know, it kind of supplements for your inability. But to your point, the challenge is building the foundation, because you don't want to be totally dependent on these devices in order to maneuver. Because if these devices become unavailable, it could definitely hinder what your options are in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, and on the good side of the devices, because I don't want to bash the devices because we need them. It really helps the teachers when they're doing their assessments. I mean, giving them instant data so they can look at they don't have to go home and grade papers, you know, so it's helping them there, but it's hurting the children. There was a study in Detroit where, you know, the ACLU sued the Detroit public school system because kids were coming out, they're saying they weren't able to read, but the devices were saying that they were able to read, right? And so that is where the problem comes in. And as much as possible, I try to get paper in front of a child, you know, so they can look at this, see that black and white, they can comprehend, and the teachers can really see if they understand, you know. So basically one of the things that's happening in our educational system. So just say for me, if I'm one of those kids that are not reading on grade level, I'm in the 3rd grade and I'm reading on the 1st grade level. What that teacher does for me when I come in and I'm reading on that 1st grade level, that teacher instantly gives me, guess what? 1st grade level work. Yeah. So is that helping me? Nah, not really, because I need to be on what grade level? I need to be on the 3rd grade level. So it's really keeping us behind with the technology. That technology is keeping us on the 1st grade till we understand that and go up. But studies show if you give people grade level work, they will comprehend no matter what color they are. One of the studies I was looking at where, you know, students from, you know, low performing schools, which the majority of the low performing schools are Black schools. Why? I don't know. I want to figure that out. And white schools, if you give them the same thing, they perform equally. So I think what the study says, 56% of our children performed, the Black children performed on grade level, whereas 65% of the white children perform on grade level. Now we're right there. We're not the same, but we're in the game, you know, because I mean, we're not in the game right now. We're not focusing on the things that we need to focus on. And that is a huge problem. And it's coming from, and I don't want to put it here, it's coming from how we are rearing our children, how we're raising our children. And it's one thing I want you to look at when we get off here, it's called the word gap analysis, right?
Okay.
So they did a study on, you know, the levels. You did the, you know, poverty, middle income, and the affluent. All right. And they're talking about the amount of words and foundational interactions that students have at home. Okay. So in the poverty area, it says somewhere that they at what is it, like 36 months, this baby that I deal with every day only sees about 525 words. Okay. Where in the affluent at 36 months, you're talking about 1,100 words.
Wow.
So when they come into the classroom, what are we having? We have books written for those 1,100 word students, and that 525, they struggle. You know, a lot of times, and I give the basic analogy. I try to keep it simple. All the books that I'm reading now say keep it simple. We've overcomplex. You can break down complex things. Say keep it simple. So one of the basic analogies that I give and is, so if I look at a test and it tells the child, it says the child goes in and they pick up a pound of ground beef. that child in the community that I deal with, they're gonna look and say, what the world is ground beef? I might know what beef is, but what is the ground? However, if I look at that word and I say this person picks up a pound of hamburger meat, right?
More than
That child will understand that, right? And that's what we got to get in our communities. And it's crazy. It's just that simple shift, where we say in our neighborhoods, we say, where we're going to? We're going to the crib. In the
yeah,
book, they say he's going to the abode. It's like, what is an abode? You get what I mean? So
yeah,
we have to make sure that we are using the terminology out here that society is using so they can comprehend. Now, when we get away and we're doing everyday talk, like when you and I talked, when I met you, it's totally different.
correct.
But when we're in this field and we're trying to make ourselves better, when we have to communicate with all races, we have to make sure that we speak the same language that they're speaking. And that is the biggest problem.
Yeah, no. So for and Bob, like our four pillars kind of surround what you're saying, right? So we talk about our four pillars is education, finance, ownership, and community.
Right.
And our opinion is that the way you teach should be biased to who you're teaching, right?
Mhm.
I don't think it's one curriculum that is applicable across the board based
Correct.
on just even what your examples are, right? I think you learn better when curriculum is designed to meet you where you are.
Right.
In certain cases, right? If you are bound to, let's say, 500 words of exposure, then the
Right.
curriculum that you're tested on should be around 500 words of exposure. Because if it's
Absolutely.
not, and if it's only 1100, then it appears that you're not as smart as those kids that were exposed to 1100. And I think I personally think that's something AI will solve. I
Right.
think AI is going to give us the capability to create curriculum on the fly, and
Hmm.
then you can make it more dynamic, right? So
Right.
traditionally, curriculum takes, sometimes years to establish, but with AI, because of the advanced technology that's available to us and the capability that aligns with AI, I think it can define data differently
Hmm.
um, and provide curriculum that meets. It would be interesting to see this. I'll make this statement and see if I'm true 10 years from now. Makes curriculum specific to an individual.
Hmm.
I could see that being a use case.
Hmm.
And now you can train a child based on how they learn.
Hmm.
Everybody is different, right? And so now you have this custom curriculum that is available to each individual child based on an assessment. And so the AI can assess the child and then build curriculum that guides that child learning path
Hmm.
in the early years and create that foundation that's necessary
Hmm.
to go out and be advantageous in the marketplace.
Hmm.
So where I'm from, you know, you don't see black principals much, let alone black male principals. That's rare. So how did you? Well, what made you want to become a principal? How did you get into that?
Yeah. So both my parents were educators. And my father's, father, he was illiterate. I think he had sixth grade, but fought in the World War, World War Two, World War Two. My grandmother, she, I think sixth grade or seventh grade, she ended up getting her GED at 40. My other grandmother, she didn't go to college, 12th grade. And so with my parents, when I'm seeing this as I'm getting older, I didn't want to go into education. I wanted to be a doctor, right? So as I'm getting older in education, I started digging in, and I mean, I was having success in my classrooms, but I was seeing other classrooms not, being great. And so therefore, I just started pursuing the administrator role. My boss now, Dr. Tiffany Hardrick, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got a position and for you, and it's elementary." And I'm like, "Oh Lord!" I mean, that's different. Dealing with babies is like herding cats. No offense, but it is what it is. It's herding
Yeah,
cats. But I live in the life, and so I really think that that's the best move that I made because they've taught me a lot about just being a human.
yeah, yeah. No, I can imagine. I have young kids, and going to the school and it's just different, man. It's so much that you wouldn't think that you would have to worry about in elementary school. That is a thing, specifically violence, gun violence, right? You
Oh yeah,
wouldn't think that's something you should have to worry about in elementary school.
right.
But now my wife and I, we definitely found ourselves on guard about that, thinking, maybe alternative to homeschooling,
Hmm.
because of the dangers now with the gun violence in the schools.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting lane. Then mix that with the bullying, which is totally different now, and then the exposure to certain topics and certain things
The world.
to the world.
Yeah.
'Cause some of my daughter, she's 8, but I can remember when her and my son. My daughter's 8, my son is 10. When they were 5 and 3, my son would have kids in the class with a cell phone
Hmm.
at 5. I just be
Right.
like, because I'm in the tech space, I just be like, I just don't see why um a 5-year-old, or let me back up. The exposure that's available to a 5-year-old with a cell
Hmm.
phone by way of YouTube is just
Hmm.
so much they can find, right?
Right. Hmm.
Um, so like I said, it's just way different nowadays in that
Yeah,
space.
and I mean, and as you say, I mean, it's the gift and the curse, and I keep saying that it's the gift and the curse because I can sit in the classroom and I can talk about something, and we can go online and see it.
Oh
Where when
yeah,
I was in school, it was like, open this book, I'm looking at paper, it's not real. This is a picture. This is not real. You see what
yeah,
I'm saying? But
yeah,
now I can say, okay, let's look, let's go to that place right now.
yeah,
And so that's the gift piece. It's the curse because I can go to that place and be somewhere that I don't need to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nah. So in the space, in the education space, in the city of um, Memphis, are you involved in the community? Are you doing things there
Yes.
in that space as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Definitely. I'm involved in a program called Micah. And what we do is a nonprofit. We go out and we just look into the community and see what's going on to address certain issues, police
Okay.
brutality. Of course, in the educational sector right now, we're highly involved with the next superintendent that's coming in to Memphis. Um, I'm the director of outreach at my church, so I get out in the community and I mean, I have to talk to people. That's my calling. That's the gift. Within that, we're developing a foundation to help, develop our youth to give them mentorship throughout, hopefully throughout life. Right now, so I'm heavily involved in that. I'm always talking to children. Um, it's just a passion because I mean, I thought about it as I was coming up. I'm like, I'm getting old. Um, these people are going to take care of me, so I got to make sure they know what's going on. Because if they don't, I'm leaving. And I mean, a little funny story. I mean, I taught at a career school. I taught medical assistance, and when I lived in Oklahoma, and I got sick one night right before my father passed, and I got sick one night. I know it was just my pressure, my mind going crazy. But I walked in there, and one of my students walked in, and it was a shock. I was like, "Oh, please, Lord, make sure that she understands what's going on." And I taught her correctly. She did a dynamic job. So it made me, that said, this is the purpose. Let me teach the future. So make sure that we're okay. So when you, Anthony, get older, these people who come in, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm good. I know this person here. I'm good. So that's what we want.
Nah, that's a good take on it too. You don't think about that these kids that are coming behind us are definitely the ones who got to take care of us,
Yeah.
financially,
Yeah.
medically, in all aspects of life as we all get older and kind of become dependent upon them. I
Right.
like that. I like the fact that you mentor and seek to mentor. I think that's key to changing the narrative in our community. I think in our community, I think the mentors are unfortunately only the ones in the spotlight. I think the entertainers, the ball players, I think they dominate the mentoring space from a distance, indirectly, I should say. And I think as a community, we have to become more intentional to make individuals like yourself, I pride on that as well, become more responsible for mentoring and passing messages in the in our community, showing what you can do not only with your body but with your mind, and showing,
Right.
to your point, that they are the future, and letting them embrace that. Because just like sometimes I know I don't think about it, I'm sure these kids aren't thinking about, hey, I'm the future.
Right.
I have to take care of everybody when I'm older.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
We're just looking at it. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Hit the nail on the
So
head.
yeah, so that's kind of cool that you're doing that, and I take my hat off to you for that, and hope that you continue to do that. Um,
Yeah.
what's some other things that you have going on in that space? I think you were telling me that you guys were starting an organization that you wanted to try to take a global adoption with that approach.
Right. So myself and he's my fraternity brother. His name's Otis Grant. We're working on a foundation now called Glean, Reach, Teach. Okay,
Okay.
so the area behind this is where we started, and we just connected definitely organically. I called him about an idea. He was talking about an idea, and I'm like, this is the same thing. So let's connect. So
Okay.
one of the areas, we have 4 areas we want to focus on. We want to focus on definitely mental health, which is the taboo in the black in the hood. It's
Yeah.
taboo. Mental health. He crazy. That's what they
Yeah.
want to say. He's crazy.
Yeah.
So now you need to talk to somebody, man.
Yeah.
Financial literacy, so we can get these 15 kids. We can get more than that. We need everybody to be able to read, but if we can get half of those, we're good. And then the foundation piece is the mentorship.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the areas why we thought about the mentorship before we start building on the others is because when I came out, it wasn't education that I wanted to go into. I wanted to be a doctor,
Yeah.
but did I know how to be a doctor? I mean, I had my parents, I came from a good background, great background actually. And, a few doctors were there, but we didn't connect. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Um, we want to connect with people like yourself, that I can get this young kid and say, because I mean, he's cool. I can talk to him. He
Yeah.
understands. He listens to the same type of music I listen to, but he is a doctor or he has his own business. And you mentor these people through from ninth grade on through college, so they won't make the same mistakes that we make. So if
Correct.
we feel that if we put them on the right track, we gonna bump our head. You're gonna bump your head, but if we put them on the right track, the process is gonna be short. Whereas some of us looking at, I'm 50 years old, and I'm just thinking about that. This is something that we should have been looking at 30, 25 to say, hey, let's start that there, and let's start mentoring these kids so they can understand, so they won't make these same mistakes that we're doing. And now with the social media and everything like that, and the entertainers, I mean, people want to shine, but they don't know what happens on the backside to get to where you want to be. Yeah, to shine.
Yeah. Nah, you got a valid point there. I was as much like you. I grew up in a country, rural city called McCalla, like right outside of Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I didn't know a doctor. I knew my uncle was a lawyer, but I didn't know a doctor. My mom was a nurse, so I had a couple family members nurses, but personally know a doctor. Never, never had access to that type of professional. And then even with my uncle being a lawyer, it was on the outside looking in with that. He didn't live here; he lived in Florida, and so we knew he was a lawyer, and he would come home and spend money on the family sometimes, and so that kind of inspired me to want to be a lawyer. He was like the richest person I knew at the time, but he told me he wasn't even rich. He just, he did well managing his money. But to your point, lack of leadership, lack of mentorship was the same here. I got into the software realm just by chance, man. I didn't grow up wanting to be a software engineer, or I was what I would call a hustle man, right? I knew how to hustle.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
learn, they call it entrepreneur, and then as you develop the skills, you're considered a businessman. And so I
Right.
went through those tracks, but all of it was trial and error. And when you're going through things in trial and error, and just out here having to get that bought experience, man, it just costs so much money and time, unfortunately. And so, to your point, we can adopt this whole mentorship model. We can get things done faster. Because
Right.
if I can get someone, if I'm mentoring, I mentor probably like 10 different businessmen now,
Right.
and I can tell them how to avoid the mistakes I made in business, and they're able to have that knowledge and get to where they're trying to go faster. So I think, to your point, I think I commend you guys for putting energy in that, and I hope you guys are successful in your
Yeah. I mean, with it, we believe and we shoot for the big goals. We don't shoot for the small goals. So, I mean, I know it's going to work. We just going to, with the time and the effort, sweat equity behind it. And when I find dynamic people like yourself and whoever is on your team, I will be reaching out saying, "Hey, man, I need some mentors, man." And I mean, now here's the gift part. You don't have to be there. We have technology. We can talk to each other. I can see you and we can have a conversation. And if I want to visit or whatever, I can. But now, that's the good part. That's why I say it's the gift and the curse. This is the good side of the technology piece. The great side that we can sit here and I can see and we can talk and we can, just get it off our chest and go from there.
No, I agree. And my team, we're all for it, man. We're built on it. As I told you, one of our pillars, our community. So it's a responsibility at Bob. It's not an option.
Right.
We're about being a resource for change, for true social impact. That's what our brand is about and what we stand for. And so anytime you have opportunities for us, please reach out and let us know, and we can make shake with it.
Man, I will do, man. I will do. And then thank you so much for just letting me just get this out and talk to people about what's going on and focus. But one thing I want to, before we leave, I want, to the parents that see this, I want to make sure that a lot of times when we're at home, I talk to parents every day and they say, yeah, my child is reading. My child is reading. They can read. Okay, because you gave them a book and they went to their room and they sat down and they said they finished the book, but you don't know what that book is about, right? One of the things, the focus areas for all parents out here, when you get your child a book, make sure it's on grade level first. The next thing, when you research it, make sure that book has comprehension questions. Okay. Now, what happens is when you send your child to the room to read, you reading over these comprehension questions, right? So this is your shortcut. This is real easy, your shortcut. So you read, and I did this with my son at work. He looked at me crazy. And he read, I said, so what was X, Y, and Z? And he just said something off the wall. And I looked down and said, you didn't read. I said, you didn't read that. Do you understand what you read? Yes, sir, I do. Okay, well, we're going to go back and we're going to restart this 20 minutes of reading time, and you go back and read. When we came back, guess what happened? He gave me what I needed to hear on each one. And he was able to cite the evidence and things like that. So that helps you as a parent, because what happens is you have a life too, and you're busy, you caught up, and I got to do A, B, C, and D. But if you have those questions lined up and you read those questions, you know what the book is about before they read it.
So you're saying you're teaching me something. You can buy different books, and some of these books will come with comprehension questions.
Yeah, one of the websites, and I got it here, it's called risetoreading.com. And you type in risetoreading.com, the books with comprehension questions.
Okay.
So Google that, and you'll pick the book out, and you'll see the grade levels. You make sure you get, I don't care if your child's in third grade and they're saying they're reading on this first grade level, give them that third grade. Because I truly believe is if I sit through your financial literacy class, or technology class, I don't know the first thing about technology, right? I can turn on the internet and things like that. But if I sit through your class for a year, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to know something about technology.
That's correct.
All right. So you giving me what I need, and we got to make sure that we're keeping that on grade level so they can understand that. And when they do, we're good. So,
No, that's good advice, because the way I do my kids, I pay them to read books. And so, yeah, I pay them. That's how they get paid. They gotta read the whole book and tell me about it, but I asked them about the book, but I haven't read the book most times, and so that comprehension sheet gonna help me. They're gonna
Yes. So you got your questions and you got your answers, man. So you can do your work. Once you get off your podcast, man, you can go over there. Hey, come on over here. Now, tell them don't come fight me. When they figured out that you understand what's going on, you got that info, that tidbit out here.
But I got it now.
Miss Smith still loves them, but I want them to be great.
Nah, that's good. That's good. It's definitely something I'm gonna incorporate. Well, we really appreciate you, Jabbar, for coming on, enlightening us on just the education space, everything you're doing. Again, we commend you for it. We want to bring individuals like yourself on the podcast to let people see what's possible when you have intentions, right? And what you can do when you work collectively. So we want to thank you. And do you have any social media or anything you want the audience?
I'm not on social media. I need to get on. So I've done the LinkedIn, but I need to get on social media because it's always, I've looked at it in the bad space, but I will be there soon. And as soon as I get on there, man, I'm gonna definitely send it to you so I can get some of those people following me, man, so we can talk, so we can make our communities better, make our children better, build these foundations, and man, just change this world as it is.
Nah, don't feel bad, man. My team make me do social media, man. I'm not a big social media person either, but they I have to be because of the podcast and everything else we got going on. So don't feel bad.
Right.
All right. Well, it's been another great episode of Let Bob Podcast. You can find us on all social media. We are Let Bob for the company. I am Let Bob for myself, and we're out.